Hello and welcome to the North Metro SBDC programming.
Thank you, Raul. And yeah, I'm operating on a little laptop and kind of going between windows. So if anything looks squirrely on your end and I'm somehow missing something, please don't hesitate to chime in, let me know. One thing I'm curious about as well is um, I know some of my advising colleagues from the SBDC were mentioning they might come today too. So this pertains to them as well. But if you are a client of the SBDC too, I'd love to hear just like the area in which, like the industry in which you operate. If you wouldn't mind throwing some things in the chat. And or if you're an advisor and have worked with other businesses, you'd be kind of curious to like maybe one or two of the industries of businesses you've worked with recently. And maybe I can take some of those examples and throw them into some of the tools that we um, will look at a little bit further down the road with the slide here. These tools are really interesting. They're not super difficult to use, but some of them have a steep learning curve. And I can show you a few tricks that help you make those easier, but really getting your hands on them is really the most important thing. So as Raul had mentioned, and I will mention, there's availability to have appointments with us. So you'd first need to meet with a lead advisor if you have never met with anyone at the SBDC. And then from there, you can meet with me and we can go through sessions and talk about specifics because the problem with this, and I've worked with a few of you on the call actually, as you all know, like everybody's business is so unique and has so many different particularities that to work one-on-one allows me to create a plan that's really specific to what your needs are instead of giving you kind of generic high elevation views of these things. So without further ado, we'll get into the presentation here. So um, a little bit about myself. There's a few links on this slide as well that you can use to connect with me either on LinkedIn or send me an email. And if you want to get, an appointment set up, I can push you onto the scheduling link, or if you have that, we'll be sharing it a little bit later as well. But I come to this work in a roundabout way that, I studied an undergraduate as a musician and I taught for a number of years the guitar. I was a classical guitarist and I taught for 4 or 5 years at a really cool music school that was a community organization in Philadelphia. And then I left that and became a part-time sailor. Well, actually, I was a full-time sailor for a short time. Anyways, just kind of an interesting, fun part of life. And I sailed with my newly married bride for about 7 months in the Sea of Cortez in Mexico. And it was really awesome. And so then I got this idea of going to library school, did that, became an academic librarian, led to being a public librarian at the Denver Public Library, where I was the business librarian. And I worked with folks to learn about doing research and finding the viabilities, related to the business ideas that they had. Yeah, basic market research things, connecting with a bunch of different small business support organizations. And then I ended up founding my own little business. So that's where you'll see that Bandana Research is my organization. And so I too, like many of you, are in the midst of starting these businesses, learning how to run them, learning um, how to strategize and find the right customers and the right market and everything. And so those are things that I'm also dealing with. And so I feel like I can relate and also provide some guidance on this area, particularly of market research. So um, as we get going in here, uh, the perfect world of research looks similar to like what this slide shows. So you have industry research sort of compartmentalized, and then competitor research totally compartmentalized. That then leads to customer research, which is also compartmentalized, which then leads to a phase of synthesizing everything you found in those past areas, thinking about your goals, where there's viable markets, where there's growth, so on and so forth. linking it up to maybe the local demographics, the community where you are looking to serve, or if it's the greater US or world, community. How do we do that, right? So, and then that should lead us right into, a thriving business, right? So, um, unfortunately, a little like my career path, it zigzags, right? You're not going to just get to that one place because you said so. It's often, we're getting there in roundabout ways. And so that's my way of kind of explaining that research is definitely not a straight path. And it resembles more of this slide where there are those big components of research. So we're still doing industry research, we're still doing competitor and customer research, and then we're still synthesizing that research. But as we get into industry research, we might learn some things that then take us over to competitor research. We look around there a little bit. We learn a few things. It brings us back to investigating something about industry research and so on and so forth. It just moves, it iterates, it goes from different places. Each type of business is going to have different questions that they need to answer, different things, demographics of customers they need to look at. Their customers may not be residential customers. They may be um, businesses, right? So there's just so many different things. And this might lead us to figuring out whether there is or is not a market. And again, so many of the ideas I think that we're bringing are skills, passion projects that we want to make a livelihood out of, right? We want to build a business around. Um, and to do that, we need to make sure that we have a viable business idea and that we can articulate it. It's not just existing, as a thought in our head, that we have facts and evidence to support why we believe it is a viable business idea. And or maybe you're further along with your business and you are looking for growth opportunities, looking to expand markets. We can do the same type of research that will bring us into contact with four or five, half a dozen different possible market ideas by going through this larger process. But we always have to be mindful that we're not just trying to say, yes, this is viable and find the way, the evidence that supports that. We want to really be a fly on the wall and be objective researchers, doing our best to separate ourselves from all the emotional feelings and desires of that work that we're looking to do, to know really, in fact, whether that business is a good idea or not. So here this is the beginning of kind of a little bit of some theory that goes along with this that I think is I try to avoid theoretical things because of obvious reasons. I want to give practical advice that you all can use. But I think that this method, this berry picking idea, is a theory that you'll probably have recognized in the past. And I think it's very easily applicable when you are going through the research process. And so I like to talk about it. I think it connects with almost anybody that's ever done any research. And as you can imagine what it is, the berry picking method is one where just like picking berries in the woods, like the image is depicting on this slide, um, what happens is you may go out during berry picking season into the mountains of Colorado, and you know that there's bound to be some raspberries out there. And you go out, and of course the trail that you're on is picked over, right? Everybody's kind of come through there. It's the easy stuff, the low-hanging fruit. And you can walk around and you might find a bush that hasn't been totally picked over, and you look around and you're like, shoot, I'm getting kind of stumped here. But you kind of pull off, or you go a little further, kind of pull off the trail a little bit. You're just kind of walking through the woods and you see a patch of berries that's really full, right? So as you go there, you're picking the berries, you're looking around a little bit, and you say, "Oh, look at that! Right next to it, there's another one. Ooh, great! I'm going to go over here and pick a bunch." And then they lead one to another, right? So you may have heard of people talking about it as kind of chasing references, in more of an academic sense. But when you're going to be looking for information. This is on the gathering side, remember. We may take these berries back home and try to make jam out of them and find that half of them are not very tasty, or they don't taste like much, or there's too much water content, right? And not enough flavor. So whatever it is, We're at the berry picking phase. We're gathering information, in other words, or gathering fruit at this point. So what we want to do though is we want to look around and realize that if we don't find good information right off the bat, that we're not doing anything wrong. That it's just part of the phase, like, or part of one of the phases of the process that we're dealing in. But what will happen is you will run into something that's pretty decent. A lot of times that's how it goes. You run into something that's like along the lines. Now that new thing is going to be a new berry patch that allows you to find other berries around it. And you're going to find that information in there. You're going to see that they're going to quote somebody. So then you can use that information, go off and find that. It might even be a better berry patch to work from. So again, just keep this in mind. I think you'll see it when you're doing it that you will run into these gold mines, right, of berries basically, and it's only going to provide you even better resources. So again, it's a process. Take it one step at a time, but this is a very common thing that happens with the research. Now, the other big theory related thing relates more to the process of doing research. You remember my first slides had mentioned those big content areas of doing research, which are industry related, then competitor related, then customer related, and then the synthesis of all of that. And that leads us to building an action plan that makes most sense from what we're finding. Now, this Carol Coultow was a researcher in the library science world. She worked with a lot of, I think it was undergraduate students who were doing their first research projects in college. And she was interested in learning about the affective nature of doing research and the feelings that you have during different phases of the research process, that can allow you then to know that you're going to go through stressful periods, but you're going to be able to see signs within what you're finding and how you're feeling about the research that can tell you more accurately about where you are in the process. It's almost as if you were a sailor again, go back to my sailing days, and you're crossing an ocean. So people used to use a sextant and they would measure the inclination of the sun at a particular point in time each day to be able to understand what longitude they were at. Latitude is easier to figure out. So anyways, it's the same thing. This is like the sextant within your ocean crossing, right? This is the place where you're going to be able to say, okay, I'm really feeling stressed out and I don't feel like I'm feeling confused and anxious. And, that might tell you where you are somewhere in the process. So we have these 6 boxes. The first one talks about the initiation of the project, and there's an emotional feeling of apprehension and uncertainty. A lot of us are going to be beyond this. We're beyond just the initiation. Remember, this is for college students doing a research project, but it's applicable to the same kind of research you would be doing for business. Now, selection gets to the selection of a topic. Again, more academic there, but there's always this confusion and anxiety at that point. The third area is exploration, and that's kind of where we're at, but it's still an area of confusion and uncertainty when you're beginning to do that research. You're going to be reading some things. Some of these reports take a little time to digest and go through. So you're going to be investing and not feeling like it's really pointing in a particular direction. And like I said, the feelings of confusion and uncertainty are noticeable. So anybody who's gotten started on research will have experienced that. And this can be up to 30% of that process. So remember, this is a large portion of that. Those feelings will last a little while as you're getting oriented to everything. Now, the next one goes into formulation of your ideas and your information gathering and developing your specific research questions that you're talking about. And those come from having done some research. And by that point, you start feeling confidence and optimism that you have a direction and you know where you're going. Again, this is a shorter period of time, about 5% of the total. But that leads into collection gathering. Now that would correlate with that berry picking we were talking about. But now you're berry picking in a patch that has tons of fruit. You've done all that work of going over the picked over areas. You're now in the best, collecting kind of phase. And this is a point where you start to feel that you've gone through a lot, an extensive point, and there's still more work to be done, but you gain confidence and you start feeling confident, and sort of like a snowball effect has begun. And this is also a big stage. 20% of the process can be here. And then the last one here, and again, they're talking about presentation. This is the last box. Um, we would kind of correlate that into creating your action plan. What are you going to do? What have you devised? And what is the implementation that you're going to take based off of the research you've done? And at this point, this is where there's a feeling of total relief. It's a longer phase too of kind of implementing and putting this presentation, quote unquote, part together. Um, but there's a sense of finality that you've completed, this process. And when you do this process, it's not something you do many times, maybe unless you're starting another business. But if this one business, it's usually the big mountain that you're going to be climbing this one time, and then it's serviceable stuff that comes later. You might, revisit it, but it's really one time that you would do like a major research process orientation, and then from there, kind of checking in on things as needed. So, um, what this leads to basically is a sense of moving away from the messiness of everything and moving more into clarity. And the thing that I've been thinking a lot recently is fluency, right? We want to be fluent in um, the daily understandings and the horizon kind of reports of what are happening, the landscape of our businesses and the industries that we operate in. So that industry research, that competitor research, that customer research, and that synthesis is going to have gone through a phase of unclear, messy, frustrating points. And you're going to have kind of thought about it, probably written about it a little bit, and that clarifies things. And that leads you to viable business ideas. Um, and it's just not a straight path, like I said. So, okay, maybe I'll stop for a moment here. I haven't looked in the chats yet. We're going to get into these slides here that are pretty wordy, but I wanted them more as a reference for you for later to be able to talk about some of the resources that I typically go to. So again, this could be taking you into a berry patch that is a little bit more fruitful, if you will, instead of starting from scratch without knowing where to go and what resources to start in. But before I do that, I'll probably take a quick little drink of water here. And if there are any questions, thoughts about that theory side of things, please let me know.
Okay, there is a question. Rolo is asking about, will you be covering observation bias today?
Interesting. Well, would you speak to that just a little bit more, Rolo? If you'd like, you can come out of mute and tell me a little more what you're thinking about with that.
Yeah, sure. I'm just beginning my own research journey, but I can already see that the hopes and dreams that I have for what I find in the data and information aligns with my business model. And I can see myself not manipulating data by any means, but coming to false conclusions to kind of prop up my own ideas and wondering if you had recommendations or thoughts on that, how to avoid taking your own stuff with you on that journey and listening to the information you're collecting.
Yeah. No, okay, thank you for clarifying. Yes, it's something that is difficult, obviously. You what I would do, the process I might take is I would write down again kind of your goals and your vision of what the business is, like a real basic, or talk it through or something, right? Like record yourself explaining what your business idea is to yourself and like how you envision it unfolding and being like, basically. That's great because then it puts all those quote unquote biases, if you will, like down on paper. Now, when you get in front of some of these reports and different things, they are going to make connections to the things that you care about and that makes sense for you. And that's great. That's why, partially why I don't really enjoy being asked to do research for other people. I enjoy facilitating the research to be done by the person that's most affected by the outcomes and the things that we see, right? But to answer your question, you have to be sort of an objective bystander. I think of it as being like a fly on the wall. You have to do your best. You have to consciously tell yourself, I'm just here to look in. I'm just around looking. You don't want to make any big business decisions. You don't want to say, oh, this is my customer when you read a few industry reports, because you may have missed a few potential client or target markets. And so again, it's very much just stepping back, recognizing when things connect with your vision and recognizing when they don't, when they're kind of opposed to it, and just observe at this point. You're collecting information, you're observing, and that's just kind of how you do it. And it's a discipline. It's a skill that we learn as we do it. But you're right, and everybody's going to run into that, because these are pretty high stakes things we're doing. We're trying to build things that are going to support our livelihoods, and bring us into new phases of our lives and whatnot. So it's like that. Does that help a little bit? I mean, that's definitely
Yeah,
something I want to impart is
I
the
think
objectivity.
I think what you said about the berry picking and the phased approach of like focus on the collection, don't be evaluating while you're collecting, right?
Right.
Like focus on the task at hand. That's kind of what I'm picking up from what you're putting down. So thank
And
you.
again, it's very iterative. There's no right way and one game plan that you can take with this either, right? So, yes, you may need to test and taste some of those berries as you're gathering. Just be like, okay, these are okay, right? So yeah, you go through the paper and you just kind of skim it and just say, okay, this seems to have things that are relevant to me. And that's all we're after, relevancy. If it's not relevant, get rid of it. It's a waste of your time. But I think what you'll find is, and I'll explain a little bit more about getting started in a little bit here. You need to jump in and read 3 to 5 things, and that's going to start orienting you in a way that you just didn't have orientation for previous, and it's gonna teach us a lot. So anyways, really great question. Hope that kind of gave a decent answer for you. And if that spawned any other ideas or thoughts from anybody, please don't hesitate to bring those up now. Otherwise, I'll move on. In Raul, I don't have my clock up with the full screen. Could you just tell me how we are in time?
We're at 12:26, right?
Wonderful. Okay, guys and girls and everyone, let's get into the resources now. So these slides really just tell us like the features that are in here and in these different resources, and then I'm going to do a little demonstration of some of them near the end, depending on again how much time we have. So this first one is one that I'm including because of its importance, but unfortunately, it's not one that we're all going to just be able to have access to. As a librarian, what I want my role to be and how I want to work is to be able to provide these resources to anybody who needs access to them, not just to the people who can afford them. And unfortunately, IBIS World is one of those incredibly expensive resources that the SBDC used to have, but couldn't justify its continued use, unfortunately. And it tends to be that like universities with MBA programs are ones that tend to have this. So if you have access to a university library because you're a student, a staff, faculty, whatever it might be, or if you can physically walk into a public university library in Colorado, there's ways that you can actually access this, but again, not through the SBDC. But I wanted to mention it because of its importance. Like I said, it is an industry analysis tool. These are going to be, the full reports are in the neighborhood of 50 plus pages that describe the current within the past year. So current in that regard trends, forecasts of the industry, including, as I mentioned in the slide, market size, revenue, growth statistics, segments of the services offered in that industry. They do SWOT analyses, drivers, things that are affecting and driving the industry. There are some regional breakdowns, charts, graphs, etc. So you will see IBIS World reports referenced a lot. And again, it's useful if you can get your hands on them. I just wanted you to know about them. The rest are going to be things that you can easily access either at a library, some online as well. So let's move on to those. Now, one that you will be able to access, I think this will be able to be accessed through your advisors. So I don't know if this is going to be one that the public will be fully allowed to, but it's a new resource that came to take the place of IBIS World. And I have not used it yet, so this is one that's coming soon. So I just wanted to let you know about it. But this was to, again, be a placeholder, not placeholder, but take the place of IBIS World. And so we're looking forward to seeing how it works. It's going to be really based, from what I've read about it, it's an industry-related resource that, again, does things about major growth metrics, trends happening in the industry, but that it allows it to become localized, and it'll kind of spit out reports on the basic overviews of those industries in local areas. So we could say, like, what's the healthcare industry looking like in Westminster, Colorado, or by zip code. So again, don't have any experience using it yet, but this is going to be coming soon. And I anticipate that working with one of your advisors at the SBDC, we'll be able to get reports from here as well. So another good one to know about. Now, one that I've used for many years, and I used it at the Denver Public Library, the Jefferson County Public Library, a lot of public libraries will have access to these, is this one called First Research Industry Profiles. And it is created by Dun & Bradstreet, which is a organization that some of you may be familiar with. But what I like about these, they're not as flashy, and I don't think they're not as well known, I guess, out in the world as IBIS World, but these are really great, and they tend to get a lot of information from IBIS World as well. I mean, among other many sources. But what I like about these is they are industry reports that are in the 20 to 30 page range, and they are updated quarterly. So I really like that quarterly update. So usually you will be finding data about your industry that is no more than 3 months old. So it's really great. Again, they give a lot of different overviews of, marketing efforts and questions that you could ask people who are in that industry. So not only can you use these as industry reports to analyze your industry and see how you see what the future kind of predictions and developments are of the industry that you're in, but you can look at industries that you are thinking of using and having as customers yourself. So if you work with let's say the healthcare industry, but you provide something else, right? You then could look into the healthcare industry reports to kind of see what's going on, what are their major concerns, are there things that I can learn from them. So again, really cool. I'll probably show us this one in a moment. This is actually there's 3 that I want to provide some overviews of. This is probably the 3rd one down the line because it's very much just a report that you would read. The other 2 are a little bit more involved, and I'm going to talk about them in a moment. Actually, this is one of them. So Data Axle, it's got a couple names. Data Axle Reference Solutions. It used to be known as Reference USA. So if you've ever run into a resource called Reference USA, this is the same thing. They just did like a new branding for it. What I love about this is it can be used for competitor research or customer research. It is basically a directory of businesses and residential directory and a consumer directory, which is really interesting. And so I really want to show you some things in this one. But basically, across the US, again, I took some of this stuff from their advertising. They have 90 plus million US businesses in the database. Not all of those are going to be verified businesses. I think the verified ones are closer to the 25 million number. So still, a lot. It's that by no means an exhaustive list of all businesses that are in operation, but it's pretty good. And it can be this thing where a place where you can develop lists of leads, of competitors, of potential customers to reach out to for maybe customer discovery or straight for sales calls and things like that. So you can search by location, by industry, by revenue, by how big the business is employee-wise, and a number of different things. So. Sorry, I'm just seeing, I haven't seen all these chats, so I did see this one from Maxim about using AI. I think so AI or Data Axle has always been one that has locked itself down pretty well. In fact, it's one that allows you to create lists of businesses, right? Or clients. And it provides there's a limit, sorry, of either 250 or 500 downloads. So let's say you're trying to really scrape all the dentist businesses or something in the US, right? And use that data. Data Axle has always put some controls on that so that it's not super easy to just take that many businesses and then do something like put it in through an AI model. So yes, what you're going to probably have to do is do a little extracting of list and things like that, and then put it into a spreadsheet, and then use that spreadsheet in an AI tool. But I hope that kind of explains that, Maxim. But that's kind of how I would do it. But because no, they're probably not going to allow AI running behind on their platform itself. I would be quite surprised if they did. But anyways, Data Axle's really great, really good one. I want to show you that one momentarily. So a newer one on the field or in the research world here is this thing called Simply Analytics, and I use this a lot, mostly for company demographic type thing, or sorry, not company, customer demographics, right? So looking at if you have a business whose customers fit a certain demographic profile, you can you can find the concentrations of those particular demographic areas, and you can concentrate your marketing on those things. So you're going to find demographic data that is pulled from the US Census. So basic things like age, gender things, what else? Income levels, things like that. There are consumer spending and behavior data that get pulled in here. There are market segments. So I think they use Simmons and another market segmentation tool within it, which I think is really neat. Economic data, health data, and it runs these customized reports and actually allows you to do visualizations is the main thing. So it's really, really great. And it can be very valuable for kind of building customized reports that you could pull into a business plan if you're looking for funding, or if you're just looking to have a real well put together, nice looking, data visualization for a business plan, let's say. So Simply Analytics is in Data Axle. I want to be demonstrating that to show. Now, I'm a little new to this tool. There used to be another one that many of you who have worked with me may have seen before called Demographics Now. And that tool has actually gone defunct. The creator stopped building it, stopped supplying it. It's not available for purchase anymore. Unfortunately, the last 6 months of using it, the data was bad. It was getting clunky. It wasn't being upkept and everything. So unfortunately, we've been out of that for a while. And this is the tool that seems to have replaced it. A number of local libraries have done that. So that I think, okay, yeah, sorry, one more really important tool, Google of search, of course. And you're going to see, again, I'm not focusing on like AI right now. I mean, everybody has something to say about AI. There's so much going on, right? Um, I look at AI in regards to research as another tool. Okay. I don't like to use AI to be pulling and finding information from me. It's okay. Again, you kind of have to, as we were talking earlier, you have to be that fly on the wall. You have to observe. You have to see what it is. But I get a little leery just knowing that the habits of some AI is to hallucinate findings. And I've seen too many of that to trust that I can just take what it has. So what I use it a little differently, kind of like Maxim had kind of been mentioning, is I tend to find the sources that I know to be authoritative and to be well regarded by, let's say, bank loan folks, right? Or others that may be helping financially small businesses to gain financing. So, and they tend to be those things that I was mentioning above. So, anyways, there's other things out there. Especially a lot of associations for different industries tend to be gold mines um, for different data, and they tend to be very niche type things that you can find. So as you can see, I did a Google power search. This slide is explaining a power search that uses this command that is highlighted that says file type :PDF. So what I do in a Google search is I put any keyword search words that I was going to use. In this case, I have the example of coffee industry data. And then I put in file type :PDF. There's no spaces between file type :PDF. It's all one, no spaces. But and what that's going to do is it's going to block Google results from bringing back anything that isn't a PDF. Google has gotten a little more um, there's a lot of advertising, right? Obviously through Google. And so sometimes AdWord results will come up that are not PDFs. So that's the only thing that will dispel my proclamation that file type :PDF brings back only PDFs. But it should, if it's a native advertised result, it's going to be a PDF. And it's great because PDFs tend to be the finalized documents for many different associations, different membership organizations, trade groups, as I mentioned. And so it can filter out a lot of things that wouldn't be as valuable for you, and it provides you these finalized reports that they are making for consumption and for either those in the industry or others that are allied with it, whatnot. And I make a mention here that you can use this trick with other file types like a document, a PowerPoint, PPT, or an Excel spreadsheet, XLS. So you would just replace the PDF with DOC, and you would get nothing but like Google Docs back or Microsoft Docs. And sometimes it's funny what you find in all these different things, but I encourage you to try it, and it's kind of a neat thing if you haven't done it before. So those are my main tools. Before I show you a quick demonstration, I just want to give you a quick couple pointers on getting started. The main one, and I put it last on this list, which I shouldn't have done, I should put it first, but is to definitely sign up for an appointment, right, with an advisor. If you have registered with and you've met with a lead advisor already at the SBDC, you can sign up at this link, and it'll be in the slide deck that Raul sends you after the presentation, and you can get an appointment. I will say that my appointments, I'm actually leaving right after this appointment for a little trip. Because I'm worried that I won't have great internet where we're going. I don't know yet. Sometimes not the best for doing face-to-face like appointments or Zoom appointments. You'll see that my calendar resumes on December 2nd. So if you were to sign up for an appointment, just know that there's a couple weeks and you can do some of these pre-measures prior to us meeting, and you'll be ready to go to kind of help you put together a plan for a more in-depth kind of overview of this type of research. So awesome. Thanks, Raul, for putting that in the chat as well. So let me get to this though. It's number one, I would say people forget about is like, what is your system, right? For collecting information, for organizing yourself. I, as a librarian again, I've worked through many different types of systems. From the ones that organize huge academic libraries, like the Library of Congress kind of organizing system, to my own, research document that I keep to go over things. And all I can say is those more complicated ones that, again, big libraries use are great. Of course, that's not what you need. But it's all to say, I've used Trello. I've used gosh, I'm blanking on all the different tools I've used at this point, but I've come to the realization that the simpler, the better. I've found that I've done so many different little research projects that all of them are like on a different type of platform, right? Like one's on Trello, one's in a Google Doc, one's over this way on a PowerPoint, so on and so forth. So I've come to the point where I actually create a folder in my Google Drive. And it'll have one Google Doc where all of my notes and my content and my links and my references and everything goes. And every time I start over, I have a new day that I start on the top, right? So every day it's just kind of filling up, and then the latest stuff is up near the top. But that allows me to go through, if I forget something, want to refer back to something, I can do a quick Control F, and I know it's all in one place. So for me, a system like that has become invaluable because it's super simple. Almost everybody has it. And it's shareable. You can work with others with it too. So anyways, that's become my system. So make sure you've got a system that you want to try and know what how you're organizing yourself to get going. Now, secondly, I would want you to, like I said, read 3 to 5 different industry reports. And you should be asking yourself, and these are industry reports about your industry, not the industry of the customers you may serve. We'll get to that. Right now, you want to do as best you can to find your industry. And again, that itself can be a little bit complicated for some of your businesses. If you're a restaurant, it's going to be pretty easy. You find, sit-down restaurants. But if you are a new, innovative kind of tool that serves different kinds of, communities or people or businesses, you may be straddling multiple industries. So just know you may have 2 or 3 industries that you sort of brush up against. And likely one of them is going to be the major one, but they all could be kind of equally important. So, but you want to ask, what are the big trends happening? Is the industry doing well? Is it growing? Is it declining? And then just other things. What did you learn? Okay, so get those all on a Google Doc, set up that appointment now or soon, so it's just on the calendar, and then you'll have that work that you can do between now and an appointment, and then we'll get into some real specifics, diving more into competitors and customers and figuring out what an action plan could be. So maybe I'll stop there for a moment again, take another sip of water, ask Raul if he sees any other good questions in there, get a time check, and then we'll wrap up with showing you a little demo.
Yeah, we're at 46 minutes. There might have been one question I'm not sure we addressed by Maxim before his AI question. He's asking, am I correct in understanding that the findings of a marketing research study, such as the defined target audience with selected communication channels, must still be validated through practical testing? If so, is this validation considered a formal part of the marketing research process, or is it treated as a separate stage?
Yeah, it's another phase. And yeah, I would be considering that like validating the book research, right? So you went from doing some of this more desk research where we're looking at resources, like I just mentioned, and then you would be looking to confirm those ideas through things like customer discovery interviews. And so that's absolutely part of the phase. Now, not everybody's going to need to do that, right? But some definitely will. And Maxim, we've worked together, so I definitely know about your business. And yeah, yours is one that I believe we would be wanting to interview and talk to people who would be potential clients so that we can validate that this book research that we've been doing and these potential directions you may be taking your business, that you get real world overviews from the people that you plan to sell to. So yeah, I see you're mentioning that. That's exactly right. I do think that could be a need that people have too in the small business community, is learning how do we do those types of how do we do that kind of research, which is again another phase. And it's important. And in fact, it's one that I didn't highlight a lot today, that customer discovery, but it's part of the customer research phase. And if we were to work together, and any of you again who have worked with me, you've probably heard me talking about customer discovery interviews. I really, really believe in them, and I believe they're also part of kind of relationship building that all of our businesses could be doing. And so, but yes, that's what I would say. I won't belabor that point, but that was a good question there. Anything else, Raul? I appreciate you doing that, by the way. Thank you for looking through the
No, yeah.
chats.
So he's asking, is it the topic of the next webinar?
I saw that one come. It very well could be. Well, actually, Raul and I were talking recently about programming ideas, so we'll jot that one down. Thank you.
Maximum. Steven's asking, any good resources for us to find expert customers or target customers to do this research against?
This is one that takes a little more one-on-one kind of talk, I think. What I would say, yes, there absolutely are. And the tool that I'm going to show you in a moment here, Data Axle, would be the one for both if you have if you're a B2B business or if you're a B2C or both. You can use it to find qualified, potential clients, and ask them. And there's more to it. So again, yeah, I think that this definitely could be a webinar in its own right. But again, if you wanted to chat about it in an appointment, we could focus on that. And in all honesty, I've mentioned this industry research kind of coming first, then competitor, then customer. But in my opinion, the customer discovery should be happening sequentially while you're going through all those other phases. And as you learn things, you're going to change some of the questions you might be asking. But it's very important to get those going. It's a skill. Again, if it might seem sort of intimidating to go out to people who you don't know. What I like about it, I'm not a sales type of person. I don't come from that background at all. And I like customer interviews because you get to put yourself on the radar without being a salesperson. And it's more about learning about what people might use this idea for or use your service for, getting the language that they use from them. Those kinds of things are the insights that propel that kind of research forward. So yeah, I think of it as desk research and qualifiable research. So quantifiable, let's call it, then qualifiable, that are sort of running parallel to each other. Yeah. I didn't see that last chat that came through. I don't know if it was a question or not. Sorry.
Yeah. Does the SBDC team have a specialty focus areas for helping small business in certain industries? I have not yet made my first appointment with the team. Do you want to take that or do you want me to take that one?
You can take that. I didn't. Yeah, or read it one more time to me. I'm sorry.
Does the SBDC team have specialty focus areas for helping small businesses in certain industries?
Yes. To some degree, it will depend on the industry, but yes, there are some focuses, on things like childcare. Definitely some other contract type, government contract type businesses. So people who contract specifically with the government, let's say. There's others that work specifically with CDOT. We have a whole series, I think, for contractors who work with the Colorado Department of Transportation. I think restaurants has been another one. Yeah, childcare definitely Those are the ones I'm thinking. Can you fill in any others, Raul, there?
Yeah,
And definitely Spanish speaking businesses is another area that we have focuses on. That's not a particular industry like you had said, but it is a kind of an area.
yeah. What is your industry, Holly?
Sorry, I'll come off mute. Nutrition, wellness, that kind of thing. So,
Hmm. That's pretty niche. To my knowledge, we don't have anybody that specifically
okay.
specializes in that, but there's definitely some advice, and this is just for in general as well, beyond those other industries that would really cater to specifically. There might be advisors that have a lot of experience working with those businesses since they've been an advisor, right? So it's kind of same thing but different. But yeah, definitely reach out and
Okay.
so 80% of business is the same, whatever industry, regardless of the industry you're in. There
Yeah.
might be just some specificities as far as like marketing and or understanding certain things like contracts, et cetera, right? That can really mess around with some things industry wise. So yeah,
Cool.
I think you'll have a lot of success with that.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are a lot I've worked with a number of businesses in different aspects of the wellness industry, and it's definitely a growing industry as all the research
Mhm.
that we've been seeing. And so I've seen more and more wellness. So that might be another thing that we just kind of keep on the back burner too, that could be an area that there might be able to be some focus. But yeah, I've definitely worked with some others too. If it's any help to you, I can more quickly get to some of the resources that we've, dug up for others in the past
Cool.
too.
Okay. Cool. Thanks, Jake. Thanks, Ro.
Yeah.
And Ro, one last time check for me. I keep
Yeah.
without
You
losing the
got five
slides.
5 minutes.
Oh, okay, great. Let me at least get into one tool that I think is really great. I've uh, I've mentioned it a number of times. Let's do Data Axle. It's a perpetually useful resource. So what I'm going to do, I have to unshare, and I will switch things around here a little bit. And let's see here. Thank you for your patience. All right. Okay. So I'm going to be directly in. I'm not going to navigate us to this resource. I'm actually taking us like right into it. So this is available at actually, I will go to the homepage. This is available at Denver Public Library. I'm using Jefferson County Public Libraries today. I think Pikes Peak Public Library, so that's further south. But up in the northern part of the Front Range, you're going to find a lot of libraries that have access to this. The Poudre River Library has it. Some others. So just know that you're going to be able to find it. I'm going to go in and I'm going to choose U.S. businesses. Again, I'm flying through this more than I would if we worked one-on-one, but I just want you to see what you can do. So if I came into the advanced search here, this database on the left provides a bunch of different choices that I can use to begin selecting, in this case, businesses that I can bring into a list that I can use, again, maybe for a competitor analysis. And so as we do this, I'm going to come through and look at some of the things. So I see business type in here. So I can click on keyword SIC NAICS, and I can choose, my business. I'm going to, for the sake of choosing something that I know is going to find some things while I'm on in the hot seat doing it. This is why sometimes I like a little, time to kind of go through things, make sure I know what's going to come up correctly. So yeah, I threw in dentists, and I see that there's dentists resumes, which is interesting. Dentist information bureaus. And then I see dental hygiene, dental schools. I don't really just see dentists, so I'm kind of surprised. Dental offices, I'm going to say. And then the other thing I just thought about in here is there actually is a healthcare provider database all on its own. So that might be a better place to do that. So in all honesty, as I'm looking here, it's not exactly coming up with what I wanted, but I'm going to do dental schools. Let's just say for some reason I do something that could service dental schools. Now, as I do that, I can come up and update my count, and I can see that across the United States, I'm finding 449 dental schools in the US. So if I just leave it at that, I'm going to be looking at the whole US. But I could also come in and I could say, okay, maybe I choose city and state. I'm going to just choose all of Colorado and hope that some of these dental schools are here. I'm sure they are. Update that count. There's 5. Okay, great. So I'm going to view those results. It's going to bring me to my list now of these 5. Now, a lot of times you're going to have lists that are hundreds of pages long, right? Or hundreds of businesses. And that's very common as well. But so now we get these little listings here. I see CU Dental Medical School, dental care, dental assistance, Hollow Tree Dental. Some of these may be miscategorized, but anyways, I'm going to come into one because I want you to see that if I click into one of these, you will now get a little report on that one particular business. And so it gives some overviews of which, industries they're in, a little profile of their business, how big or this is showing some demographics of their business. They have 20 to 49 employees. It does not show sales volume, unfortunately. So sometimes you'll get these incomplete, areas. But there's a lot of really interesting things in here. And then finally down here, there's also a section on business expenditures. This one, again, is a bad example, but it's showing up with not available. I bet if I click to another, you'd find dollar amounts that are attached to the different areas of expenditures. And so again, if you're a service provider for dental schools, and you need to understand, how much they have for contract labor, you could find kind of an overview of like how much relatively they're spending on contract labor, things like that. So I just wanted you to see one small way that you could take advantage of this tool. These are also available to put into larger charts. You can heat map these, or you can put them, onto a map so you can see where they're located. You can download all of them. And so, I just clicked into one record there, but you can actually do a download of all of them, and it'll bring in any or all fields that are of interest to you, and put it all into one spreadsheet. So you can just look in one place, not have to, click into each little link like that. So anyways, that was just a quick little brush the surface kind of overview of that. I think I'll leave it at that today before, I don't think we'll have enough time to really dive into with any great ability, the Simply Analytics, which would be the next one I would show you. But I would love to be able to work with anybody that is kind of entering this research process or just needs to revisit it for their business. So I will let you go ahead and sign up for one of those appointments, and I'll get back to you with scheduling, and we'll take a look at what we have in store and how we can put a plan together for everyone. If there's any last minute questions, I'm happy to answer any, and I'll have to hit the road here in just a minute too.
Yeah, you're pretty much at your time there,
Okay.
Jay, and I
Great.
don't see any other questions, but I want to thank
Okay.
you for your time and your expertise. And for everyone else, I will be sending out a follow-up email. If you would like to connect with Jay, we'll have that link to schedule time with him there as well. And we'll go from there. The recording will be there and the slides. So feel free to reach out if there's any questions on anything else. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.